What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Sunbelt Syndicate. We've got a nice one in store for you guys tonight. Josh and Coach Blakley thought I might have been reaching out for some selling of insurance the first time he saw an unknown number come in. So once he was aware of who the heck we were, he was very easy to work with and get on here tonight. So we appreciate his time. He'll be our special guest of the evening. And Marv, you're coming to us from Virginia yet again?
Yeah, Lynchburg, Virginia, home of that Liberty team that nobody likes to talk about.
Oh man, the Flames. All right. Well, deal with that the best you can. Seth, what's the weather like up in Boone this evening?
Cold and snowy, my man.
Ooh.
Cold and snowy.
I'm
Rain
guessing
and snow. That's all it does here.
I'm guessing Coach doesn't have to deal with too much snow down there in Texas, right?
About once every 5 years, we got it this year. My daughter built a snowman about yay tall. We just had to get it done before lunchtime, before it melted.
Oh, man. Oh, look at this. The return of Artie. Coach, this is Texas State's biggest fan as far as we're concerned. And he's been a longtime viewer of this show specifically for the baseball aspect. So hopefully Artie Cat's excited about having you guys and you specifically on the show tonight.
Very cool. Very cool. In my defense, though, about the insurance, I literally that morning was shopping for car insurance. And I mean, I got 100 phone calls and so many texts and emails. And so, like, when it came in, I was just like, oh, my goodness. And then actually Mag saved you because he was like, hey, did they ever reach out? And I was like, oh, man, let me check. And I was like, oh, my God. One of my car insurance people was the podcast. So.
All right. So I thought he was saying it as like, yeah, I just don't look at, unknown numbers. But he legitimately was thinking I was trying to get him insurance. So, what's funny is I responded to him and I said, well, now that you mention it, I am trying to reach out regarding your car insurance. But no, I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad that Max gave us a good word, man. We really appreciate all his efforts. And did you see his hands play on Twitter going around, Coach? From
what
this
do you got? What did he do?
It was kind of a line drive. I think it took a one hop, but he grabbed it like a shortstop would. Just grab that thing barehanded.
Even the blonde squirrel finds a nut.
Oh man, yeah, it was pretty good play. A lot of guys in the dugout liked that one. So he definitely making some highlights before the season gets too far along. Artie Cat's got a good question or comment here for you. Coach Blakley, I just want to suggest a name for retirement, Joseph A. Vance for the early teens. Maybe you understand that better than I do.
Joseph A. Vance. I don't, unfortunately.
Okay. He may be a family friend of his or something.
I was thinking, Artie Cat's kind of a historian. Is he talking like early teens? Isn't like 2013? Or are we talking about like 19 teens? So like,
here we go. I got details. He was a pitcher for the White Sox. Anyway.
Artie, you got my vote, man. I don't know.
Oh, man. I keep covering up Seth's face with all the comments. Maybe I need to.
It's all right, buddy.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing.
No.
Went and played for Texas State. So there you go. There's the name there. There's where it comes from.
Right now, the only retired number we got is Goldie, so Paul Goldschmidt.
Okay.
He went to Texas State?
Yeah.
Did not know that.
He was a freshman. I was a senior, so he would have been a freshman in 2007. So probably 7A, got drafted 2009.
He's with the Yanks now, right?
Yep.
And you guys were you guys known as Texas State at that point, or was that before the name change? I forget when that happened.
So when I was in high school, it was Southwest Texas. So I think it changed in 2004. Went over to Texas.
So just before you got there then.
If I'm wrong, Artie's probably about to correct me.
He probably will.
He probably could. Yeah, he always gives us the facts we need. Yeah, he's definitely our resident historian. Coach, we'll start you off with as we say, a softball question on a baseball show here. But going into the season before this weekend kicked off, kind of what were your guys' expectations as a whole, or maybe there's a specific expectation that you as a coach kind of hope to get this year?
Yeah, I mean, we came off a disappointing 2024. Felt like it didn't go the way we wanted it to, and we were trying to change the culture, brought in 27 new guys, and probably even more exciting than new players was some new blood on the staff with David Pierce and David Linehan. Coach Pierce obviously was over at University of Texas for the last 8 years. And then, Coach Linehan came to us from the Minnesota Twins. He was the assistant hitting coach over there. And so kind of got all the new guys and the new pieces. And with David Pearson, who's been to Omaha, eight times, just and what we've talked about is we got to get to Omaha, and how do we get guys actually buying? Because I think every team probably in the country says, hey, we're going to Omaha. Let's go to Omaha. Breaks it out to Omaha. But how do and that was one thing Coach Pierce was big on. Well, how do we get from we're talking about going to Omaha to going? What's the next step? How do you get the buy-in of guys actually walking down the field thinking they're going? And so, I think that's 100% our goal is we're going to Omaha this year. And you look at preseason polls and different things, and they are what they are. And we probably got ranked exactly where we deserved after last season, and we're fine with that. But that's it for us, man. I mean, it sounds like coach speak, but we're trying to get into a regional, get into the dance, be the team that's playing hot at that time, and make a run and go get to Omaha and knock down the door for Texas State to get there.
Marv, you got a recruiting question that you'd like to throw out at this point? Because I think that fits well with.
Yeah, no, it does. So a question I've been asking all the coaches is like in today's environment, NCAA, you got NIL, you got the transfer portal. When you look at taking a kid out of high school that's a stud, right? But he might take a year or two to get acclimated to the college game, might have to put on some weight or whatnot. And then you go look at kids from JUCO or a kid that wants to transfer in from a different school that's, played a year or two, seen college arms, taken at bats. Does that change your approach to recruiting at all, or are you specifically just looking for the position fit and the right guy?
I kind of look at it like this, and I am the recruiting guy. I'm sure y'all know that, but you're looking for a Friday night guy and you're looking for a 4-0 hitter, and they come from where they come from, right? And if the Friday night guy's a freshman, the Friday night guy's a freshman. Have we taken some portal guys? Yeah, absolutely. Why wouldn't you? There's history with them. You're not just recruiting a player that you like the video and you like the swing and you like what he does, but you got numbers that when they've already done it at our level, they're relevant numbers. JUCO, there's a little bit of a jump. High school, obviously, there's a huge jump. But what we've actually seen, especially going into next year's with the rosters being cut down like they are, we've been able to sign some high school kids that we wouldn't have had access to in the past. And I think you got to go get the best players. And, we've had a freshman play every day for us, the last 4 years and hit right in the middle of our lineup and a different freshman in those 4 years, I'm saying. So for us, we kind of looked at it as, man, if we can get the guy that we can get him out there his freshman year, then all of a sudden we get an all-conference sophomore and a draft pick junior, then we need to go that route as well, So I haven't put a huge emphasis on just going the portal route because there's good players in JUCO, and I feel like the high school kids are really getting left out. The JUCO kids are kind of getting left out, and everybody's going portal crazy. And, with what we've seen with the portal, we're able to get the portal guys, but we're not able to get the one that's got the crazy all-conference numbers from another school, because you're going to have to pay that guy 6 figures half the time to get him, and we don't have that kind of budget. And so, for us, it's still a little bit of a guessing game. We've gotten some really good players out of the portal, but we're having to get the kid that we saw in high school and liked, and he went to name your favorite SEC school and didn't get a lot of playing time, but you got to trust that he's a good player. He is what you saw in high school. He just didn't get to play because it's a logjam of portal guys over there. So I guess to answer your question fully, it's changed it a little bit because we have access to the portal guys, but we've always been kind of 60-40 high school to junior college kind of program. And I think now it's probably 50-30, and then you go 20% portal, and you kind of go that route.
Yeah, it just – when I look around at the rosters, it just seems like they're older nowadays. Everyone's kind of got, more upperclassmen up there. But I don't know if you don't mind touching on this because you see it in football all the time, like high school kids getting looked over because people are going, especially in football, they're going the portal route. How are you seeing that affecting high school recruiting kind of like across the country?
I think the level of players that are available right now is crazy. And you're having to just tell them to be patient, and you're telling their travel guys, we like them, but they got to be patient because – with a 34-man roster next spring, you can't have 12 freshmen. That's a little crazy. You got 22 guys that aren't freshmen and 12 freshmen. So I think it's just going to become you got to kind of find your own way. You got to choose your own route. Whether that's JUCO or going to the D1 where you think you can play and transfer. And I mean, every kid's going to have to figure it out. Every program's going to have to figure it out. But there's no doubt the high school kids available now would have typically committed summer of their junior year. Now they're spring of their senior year, and some of them are 92, 93 miles an hour, and all they got is junior college offers, and it just it's just become a numbers game. It really has. And I don't know. I mean, I feel for them a little bit, but it's just kind of the way things are going now.
Yeah, the new world we live in.
Coach, last year, this was our first year doing this, and we kind of started realizing throughout the year how much RPI really meant as in regards to seeding at the end of the year. Who makes a regional, who doesn't. Looking at your schedule this year, what's some games or weekends that you're looking that could really boost the RPI to really help you guys out towards the end of the year?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we'll have the perennial sunbelt guys that are always going to be top 50, top 60, that sort of thing. And Southern Miss, Coastal, a bit in the top 25. Seems like every year. Louisiana, not to leave them out. Troy's, predicted to finish really high this year as well. But, one thing about us in Texas and all the D1s, we're always going to go home and home with the Aggies and the Longhorns and Baylor Bears, and we got TCU at our place. So we're always going to have our midweek RPI games, where it means a little bit more because if you want to get in a large bid, you're going to have to knock off 2 or 3 of those teams, and do some of those things. But, we got Illinois coming in this weekend, finished top 2 in the Big Ten last year. They were really good. Grand Canyon coming to our place, another one that typically has a pretty good RPI at the end of the year over in the WAC conference. And then we go to Campbell, which you guys probably know more about them than I do. When we scheduled that, it was old Campbell with craziness. Now I know they just got a new head coach, so I'll be interested to see how they are when we get there and everything. But those are obviously big games for us. But then even when you look at our non-Power 4, midweek games, you're looking at Rice and you're looking at UTSA home and home, who's top 70 in RPI every year. So those games are out there. And then like I said, I think at one point last year, the Sun Belt had 11 teams ranked inside the top 91 in RPI. So you're going to get your RPI if you just keep winning series in the Sun Belt.
Now, you mentioned UTSA. Could you talk to us about what that means to you personally, having spent time there as a player, and now you're with Texas State, and whatever kind of rivalry exists? I'm sure it's just as big in baseball as it is in football, but I know that football one is the one that we hear the most about. Could you just kind of speak to that? Is I-35, right? Is that what it is?
I-35 rivalry, yeah. Yeah, I'm glad Coach Trout's not on right now because he'd be commenting right now. So he always says I'm wearing my orange underwear when we play him, and that's not true. But, I hated Texas State. I hated them back in the day. I had to, right? I mean, and we beat Texas State back in the day. That's why I came over here so we could start beating UTSA, But it's a great rivalry. Texas State, we're blessed with facilities and everything else. And, it just kind of is what it is. I'll always tell my buddies because, they're alumni, and every once in a while I'll kind of go back and kind of hang out for an alumni game, whatever's allowed, that sort of thing. And I always tell them, hey, guys, we had a good time at UTSA. We go to Texas State, we had a better time. So we might have messed that up.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Coach, I got a quick question. We kind of talked about it earlier, and you alluded to it on the RPI stuff. Just talk about the overall quality of baseball that you see in the Sun Belt Conference, the arms that you're going to see, the bats that you're going to see, and just what makes this conference great.
I always start when, because we're the only Sun Belt team that's in Texas. So it's becoming bigger. But, 5 years ago when I got the job, a lot of kids in Texas didn't know a lot about the Sun Belt. And I was like, well, we'll start here. Like, it's a lot of the same states as the SEC. I was like, and you got like the top mid-major athletic departments in a lot of those SEC states. So you still get those like rabid, drunk, fun fan bases. So I was like, that's kind of where I started. Like, hey, man, you want to play in some atmospheres, go play Sunbelt baseball. You're going to play in front of 3,500, 4,000 people. You're going to play in front of, 1,000 people on a Sunday at 12 o'clock game and do some things like that. But, I think when you go across it, if you come to the Sunbelt and you put up numbers, it means something, and you can't say that about every Division I conference. And you come in here, you put up numbers, it means something, you're going to get drafted, And so that's kind of the way we go with it, right? We play all your Power 4 schools that, everybody wants to talk about, that sort of thing. But you come into the Sun Belt and, it's a real league. I think scouts look at it differently. I know part thing we talked about earlier was trying to get the Sun Belt Conference relevant, and it's been the 4th best RPI conference in the country. And I think, to the casual baseball fan, they have no idea. They have no idea. They think the Sun Belt, it's a pretty good mid-major conference. Well, no, it's better than a couple of the conferences that are name brand that have really good football teams, and you kind of got to explain that to them. And we've got a bunch of sheets that we show them. And, you should see parents' eyes pop open when they're looking like, holy cow, and, oh, you guys beat Texas? Oh, yeah. Like 4 years in a row, that sort of thing. So no, the sunbelt's legit. I mean, it's real. I love the atmospheres. I love the college towns that a lot of the schools present. I love the fan bases. There's nothing better than an angry fan base is screaming at you and somebody hits a 2-out double and the place goes silent and all you can hear is your dugout. I mean, that's one of my favorite things to do in life. So I love it.
That's awesome.
Real quick, Artie's mentioning the 2020 or the 25 black commemorative jersey he says looking great on the next comment because he didn't put exactly how I wanted it there. But speak to a specialty jersey that we're going to see here later in the year.
Nice. Yeah, Artie, we're wearing them tomorrow, so get after it.
Oh, there we go.
Oklahoma State.
Yeah, that's a big one there, right? I guess I don't know if this is up to date current, but at the time that the schedule had it was a number 19 in the country. Is that are they still that in D1 rankings right now, or they moved up?
I think they dropped a spot. I mean, they went 1 and 2 on the weekend, but I mean it was a pretty talented tournament up there at Globe Life, and I mean I watched a lot of film on them today. They're plenty good. So.
Yeah, and this one is back in Globe Life. So how far of a trek is that for you guys?
It's about 3.5 hours. I think we leave at 11:30, so we'll pull up to the ballpark around 3. It's 6:30 game. That'll give us plenty of time to kind of get the guys off their feet and let them move around and see the facility and kind of get after it a little bit. So,
I got a quick question. You talked about playing the Sun Belt, the atmospheres. What is your favorite away venue to play in the Sun Belt, whether it's the facility, the atmosphere, the travel, just your favorite place to play on the road?
Man, if you're going atmosphere, probably Southern Miss. The first time I played there was in the season last year. So, they're new to the conference. It was legit, man. I mean, they were good and they were playing for something and that place was sold out and they were rowdy, but not, nothing below the belt, just kind of funny and getting after you a little bit. But it was a great atmosphere. Louisiana is always good. That's turned into a pretty good little rivalry. They've kicked our butts for a couple of years, and it is what it is. But they always get after us a little bit, and our fans get after them. So that one's been fun too. You guys are all associated with Boone. I love going to Boone. It's just I always say I don't know how they put that field where they did, man. It's like you come around a mountain, there's a baseball field, and you're like, what kind of dirt work they have to do to find a flat piece of land over here, And like Boone, and then it's crazy too what everybody's doing, and Old Dominion's building new stuff. Georgia Southern just did it. Georgia State's announcing it. I mean, think about you give Georgia State a crazy facility. How unbelievable could that place be? I mean, you're in Atlanta, Georgia, with all that talent, Everyone in the SEC recruits from Atlanta. But no, it's good. I'm trying to think. I haven't been to Georgia Southern. Somehow I've been here 6 years. I've never been there. So I get to go there for the first time this year. I know our coaches like it. I'm sure that's going to be a pretty cool place. I mean, even Marshall. I mean, have y'all seen Marshall's place?
Yeah, their new place is very nice.
Unreal. It's cold, but it was unreal.
Coach, as an App State fan, we had the Georgia Southern guys on last week, and they were phenomenal. But you will enjoy nothing about Statesboro. There's nothing. I'm kidding, of course.
I'll use that in recruiting tomorrow. So
there you go. Oh, man.
If they hear that line, they'll probably know who I'm talking about.
You guys talked about the rivalry with UTSA, and obviously they're not in the conference. You don't have a Texas team in conference, as you said. Sure. Is Louisiana, it seemed like maybe, is that your guys' go-to as far as like who you consider a rival in the conference, or is it really not marked or thought of in that way at all? I'm kind of curious as to how that works for you guys.
Yeah, I definitely think it is. I've never talked to Coach Daggs or anybody on the staff about it, but it always seems pretty heated when we get together. And like I said, the fan bases get after it a little bit. And I feel like it's in every sport a little bit at Texas State, to beat Louisiana because, it felt like we were kind of their little brother for Texas State. I think came in the Sun Belt in 2013. And then I think, like 19, 22, 24, something like that, won the Bubba's Cup. But for a long time, like Louisiana was up there at the top and trying to get past those guys. So I think to our athletic department and our fans, it's always a big deal when Louisiana comes to town or any of the Bobcat teams are playing, the Raging Cajuns.
Nice. Artie says he hopes to see you guys do well in the Astrodome. Nothing cooler than seeing college guys hit home runs and playing in a pro park for a change of scenery. Yeah, I'm sure the guys are pumped about that. I mean, anytime you play, doesn't matter if it's football, basketball, or baseball, anytime you're playing in a pro arena of any sort, it's probably got a little extra juice behind it. Seth, go ahead with your next question, man.
Coach, talk about the guys a little bit. When we're looking at stat sheets at the end of the weekend, who's popping off? Who are we looking for this year?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with this, and I don't want to go too much in detail, but we might be the most injured team in the country. We had a rough 2 weeks, man. So we started opening weekend without 5 of 9 guys that we thought would be in the starting lineup, and some will be out for considerable time. But the flip side of that is I thought we played really well. We were a lot younger lineup wise than we anticipated being. But the guys got after it, and obviously, I don't say obviously, but Ryan Farber is the guy to watch out for first and foremost for us. And he's healthy right now, and he had a great season last year, playing the majority of the season with 2 torn groins, and kudos to that kid for even trying to play, much less having the season that he did. I mean, the guy could barely run, and yet he would gut it out and steal bags when he had to. So, he's a stud. He's our shortstop, hitting leadoff, switch hitter, controls the barrel. It's literally like he steers the baseball when he hits it. I've never coached anyone that can do some of the things that he does on a baseball field. And then, the one that we're high on and he got off to a great start is Ethan Ferris, our center fielder, 6'5" center fielder that can run, has an absolute cannon in the outfield, and, hits the ball over the lights, and so it's just all been a freshman year, got his feet wet, just didn't have a ton of success, but how can we get him going? And then, right now we're close, right? We're really close, man. If he can keep producing at the level he's doing it at, it's going to be pretty special for him. So, those 2 guys, and then I got my stat sheet. I don't want to leave somebody else. Somebody get mad. Freshman, Zach Gingrich, talk about, the door opening to get some guys in there a little bit. And he came back from Christmas break and was like a change guy. This fall, he was just one of the freshmen that was there. We liked him. He's big. He's physical, left-handed hitter, and it was okay at times. Sometimes it wasn't great. And he came back from Christmas break, and everything was different. It was like he put on 10 pounds. He's swinging the bat differently. He got in like a pro group and hit every day and took at bats, all pro guys. He's in the 3-hole right now. As a freshman, had an unbelievable weekend, man. It's real juice. He's got a good eye for the zone. He was going to fight for our DH spot. Now we got him in left field every day. So my challenge as the outfield coach is, hey, I got to get that guy ready to go, not make mistakes for 56 games. But he's really working at it, man. He's doing a great job. A big physical kid that the wind doesn't matter when he hits the ball. He can hit it through the wind, get it out of the park. He cleared our batter's eye the other day with no wind. It was kind of insane, really doing it. But then, on the mound, Friday night guy, Jackson Tier I think he led Division III baseball in ERA last year. What a big get for us. And that was all Coach Trout. I can't take any credit, man. He flew up to Martha's Vineyard and watched him pitch. And I was skeptical, man. I was like, I don't know, Coach, D3 guy. We're going to have to go after him real hard to get him. And he's been, so much better than advertised. He's a real Friday night. Do what?
In the grand scheme of it, getting a D3 guy, is that a pretty big deal?
For a D3 player. I coached Division III baseball for 3 years, so I'm pretty familiar with the level. It's a big jump, not to nag on anyone that's playing Division III baseball, but yeah, the jump in level of competition is pretty extreme.
To be a Friday guy as well, that's
for his stuff to come in here and play right away is pretty impressive, And then, awesome. Austin Eaton, who was our Friday night starter last year, and now he's hitting in the 4-hole due to injuries and DHing, and then he's our Sunday guy, and he's been really good as well. So, and then we got some back-end bullpen guys that can really do it, man, that are definitely catching the attention of some pro guys. They got big velo, big stuff, and if we can keep that 3-headed monster on the back end of games, throwing strikes and competing and keep that stuff up, and we got a chance to really pitch it this year.
How much is that new scholarship or roster limit going to affect things next year? You talked about injuries, with 40. How many guys do you have this year? 40?
We have 40.
40, yeah. 6 less guys on the roster. That's got to kind of make you nervous.
Well, so, we have another kid that's a catcher who's 2 weeks away from being released from having Tommy John at the beginning of the fall. So, if you look at it right now, if we were on a 34-man roster, we have 6 position players out.
Wow.
How many position players are you going to carry on a 34-man roster? Like my initial reaction probably like 16 hitters, 18 pitchers. So, do the math, right? If we got 6 guys out, we're at 10.
You're one away from being in big trouble. You're already in big trouble.
Right. And so we're going out and finding two-way guys. That was kind of our our thought process a little bit. Like if you got left-handed throwing outfielders, they probably need to be able to spin a curveball too. And maybe they just throw 10 innings a year on Tuesdays when you need an inning here and there. But man, after all this has happened, we're like all in on, hey, we need 4 or 5 two-way guys. Just if nothing else, we'll just keep them throwing bullpens in case something happens. We can get them going a little bit,
Wanted to talk to everyone about your season opening sweep. This was, I know, maybe from a coach's aspect, you don't want to say this, but we'll say it. It was pretty much expected. And so it was nice to see you guys go in there and take care of business as we thought you would anyway. Can you speak to maybe some things you saw that you liked out of this series specifically, what it gave you the opportunity to do opening up down at home before the season really gets going here?
Yeah, I mean, just to start, when you got 27 new guys, and we only returned 3 players in our lineup, and one of them got hurt on Friday night. So by the third inning, we had 2 guys that had played a Division I baseball game before in our lineup. So we were, cautiously optimistic, but at the same time, knowing that we were going to have to get some guys through some jitters and get them into games, and even on the mound, I think we threw 3 guys that had been in Division I baseball games before at Texas State. So. We were really optimistic going into the series, but at the same time, hoping for guys to get in there and compete and just honestly be the players that they showed us they could be. And I thought they did that, right? And then, a lot of those guys got kind of inserted, probably didn't think they were going to play opening night, maybe even opening weekend. Now all of a sudden you're hitting in the 5-hole opening night. And so, just kind of getting some guys through that. But, the biggest takeaway for me was we pitched really well. I know if you look at the scores, you go, but I mean, really, it was kind of 2 innings that blew up on us with some goofy stuff. But outside of that, I thought we pitched really well. We made 1 error on defense. I think we took away 4 or 5 hits. So we were, plus 3 or 4 on web gems compared to errors, which was good. So, we have a real chance to play defense and pitch this year. So that's kind of our deal. And then we're trying to develop the guys and get the offense going and trying to roll there too,
I know I was just looking at the RPI, and I know from last year to this year, it's totally different. Like you said, transfer portal, how many players you lost, and the few that you returned. But just looking at that was 111 RPI for you guys as a finish for last year. They were 246. So I think that's where a lot of people looked at it and said, oh, they should easily win this one. But like you said, they don't look introspective and see all the finer details that you've just let us know about. I mean, I didn't personally know you had that many guys injured, and dealing with all that stuff going into the season like that. So even more impressive to know about the 4-1, 8-7, and 7-4 victory to get you guys going on that clean sweep. But yeah, it's phenomenal stuff to see you guys get going that way. Marv, Seth, you guys got another question for him?
I got one last question. You talked about you guys being in Texas and having to take the long bus trips. We've been hearing a lot about this game called Mafia. You guys play that on the bus. You laugh, so yes, I'm assuming that's a yes.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I don't know how to play Mafia, but, I mean, I've had 15 years of guys on the bus behind me playing Mafia, and it is like the most entertaining for them, annoying for us as coaches. Like, guys, shut up, I don't know a lot about Mafia, but I know that they love it, and they'll play. And the game lasts forever. I mean, the games last 2-3 hours, it seems like. Play.
Yeah, we had never heard of it until last week. They tried to explain it to us. It makes 0 sense to me, and every coach, every time we ask that, is giving the same reaction, like, oh, that thing.
I need to go back there one time and play. I mean, if it's that much fun, maybe I need to learn it. I can teach my kids or something, but I have no idea.
Yeah, I was telling them, maybe I'm the old guy now. I had never heard of this before, and all these kids know the ins and outs of this whole thing. It's not like any of them are unaware, obviously. Like you said, it's a whole bus worth of these guys playing this thing. So I feel like I think I said this last time. I want to see it in action to better understand what I'm listening to, right? Because when there's 1 or 2 guys explaining this to me, I'm like, okay, I have a vague concept, but what's the intricacies? How does this interact with each other? Just because you're the Mafia or you're the police or the ambulance or whatever, then there's a narrator. Did they just make up every little thing the whole way?
You know more about it than I do. See, I don't know. Like, don't they like they touch a guy and he's dead and you're trying to figure it out? I mean, that's all. And that's what I get when I go to the back of the bus to go to the bathroom. What?
Is it just pause there, or did they let you just hear whatever they're going through it when they're
No, they
playing?
don't pause at all. Yeah, Coach.
Well, I also have one more last question, maybe. But you've been doing this now for a few years. You are considered the associate head coach. You're the head of recruiting here. Where do you see yourself here in a few years? You have aspirations to be a head coach, I would assume, one day. Is that kind of an end goal for you?
Yeah, I definitely want to be a head coach. I think with the way rev share and NIL and everything's going, there's a certain level you got to stay at if you're truly trying to compete. So, for me, being a head coach sounds great, but I want to keep climbing the ladder as an assistant. I want to get to the highest level as an assistant and sit in the dugout and learn from whoever the coach is that's been there and winning and see the game at that level, and then try to go from there probably into a head coaching job, and I've lived in Texas my whole life, so it'd be hard for me to leave Texas, but there's a lot of good baseball outside the state of Texas, and we'll see where we go. But I definitely want to be a head coach. I think I'm ready in a lot of aspects, but at the same time, if I get the opportunity to go to, whatever level it is and see the game and learn from somebody who's really done it well for a long time, I think that'd be worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. I just was reading through your essential resume as they have it there, and I'm like, man, this guy's been doing it and he's worked his way up. So it's something that I figured was in your future at some point, and just wanted to hear your thoughts on that. Seth, do you have any last questions?
Yeah, just piggybacking a little bit off of the associate head coach. What's a normal practice day? What is the role of the associate head coach? What are we looking at here?
What's my role? Well, my role is to make sure we have good players on the field before practice starts. That's my first and most important role. But once practice starts, we kind of go in our own areas. Trout runs defense. Coach Linehan runs the offensive portion. Coach Pierce is our wonder. He does a little bit of everything and goes around and tells the jokes. And then, Coach Masco's in the bullpen. My job is to hit the fungo and coach up the outfielders and throw a little bad BP here and there once in a while and kind of go. But, that's it. I don't have any special roles. I think it was just Trout was trying to reward me for, hopefully he thought I was doing a good job and trying to reward me with a title and keep me around for a little bit longer. And I was very appreciative of it. And, it didn't change a whole lot. It was just a nice little name,
Yeah, well, I could see just from your personality, the way you interact with us, why the guys want to come play for you guys and play down there at Texas State. So it's easy to see why people would want to be one of your players, Coach. So
appreciate
good stuff, man. We really appreciate your time and energy.
Take me through the sunbelt. You guys have dove in all the rosters. I haven't. I stay away from it. I'm like, I know as coach speak, but I'm like one game at a time. Like, how did the Bobcats win one?
I'll say this. Last time so Coach Maggs, who connected us with you, tried to put us on the spot, said, hey, where do you have us ranked in the Sun Belt? And we were like, hey, we're going to put out a composite. We put out the composite, and, man, I think we pissed him off. I don't think he liked where we put them in the Sun Belt. So when I look through the rosters, I'm trying to look for guys that returned.
Sure.
Trying to look who transferred in. Like I said, I've just really noticed that there's a lot of older guys in the league. But when you look around the Summit, preseason is a really unfair time to look and see because, like, you got 27 new players. I don't know half of them. I don't know 25 of them. So to say, like, hey, they're going to be this – and you got your traditional powers who everyone thinks is going to be great. Troy came in with a preseason ranking. You got Southern Miss. You got Coastal Carolina. ULL has always been good, even though they had a kind of a tough weekend. So it's impossible to rank people right now or to kind of take you around the Sun Belt. We always say once conference play starts, that's when you really start to figure out what everyone's got.
Figure it out a little bit.
Yeah.
Mid-conference week. Middle of the conference schedule. Then everybody starts beating up on everybody. It's a crapshoot at this point. It's open, wide open.
I think there's a general consensus among fan bases of the ones that are tried and true baseball schools here, right? So I'm talking about, the Troy, the Coastal Carolinas, the Southern Miss, the Louisianas. They all think they're going to end up in the top four. That's, pretty much who we've got. All right. So, we won't lie to you, Coach, because it's out there on the internet. You can go find this whenever you want.
Let me interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead.
I got to do my own poll, and I was like, because they sent it to me, and I was like, hey, man, we finished where we finished. Like, I don't want to be ranked high. We don't deserve to be ranked high. And here's what I'll tell you, too. In 2022, they picked us 9th, and we were 3 outs away from hosting the Super Regional in San Marcos. So They don't mean anything. And the number of times that's came up to our guys is, I mean, uncountable, right? So,
Which I will tell you what you rank number one in.
what's that?
That hat.
I love that.
Hat.
I love that. I mean, we got these designed, and it is.
Well, we got to dress this for you after this, Coach.
Yeah, I'm about to say, just wait. This is Seth's plug to ask for free stuff. It's going to happen at some point.
hey, if you guys weren't on podcasts, I could probably get 3 headed that way.
There we go. There we go. As we say, Seth hates free stuff. He hates it, and
to kind of
just worry about not making everybody mad on here, right? And we're good.
That's what it's about.
No, I mean, to bring
King Rogers, he upsets someone every day. He's loving it more and more too.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like Seth kind of alluded to, and I think you talked about it earlier, towards the end of the conference, like that's when the team that gets hot, right? That's kind of played some good baseball early. Maybe they hit a lull. Maybe they got into a little bit of slump, but they figured it out. They got their rotation right. They got their hitting order right. And now they're starting to play their best ball. Those are the teams that you're going to move up the chart because you just want to get hot at the right time and get the right lineup in there. And, guys have got a season almost underneath their belt and they've kind of figured it out. And like you said, you can beat the crap out of each other in the conference. So if you can start to separate at the end, that's when you should start feeling really good about yourself.
No doubt. That's what we're hoping for, man. When we get some of these guys back, we're going to be the freshest team at the end of the year.
There you go.
That's true. What's funny is, in a sense, that's kind of what happens in basketball, right?
Sure.
Football is not necessarily the same. Like every single game matters, right? You can't even afford to drop one, it feels like, as any kind of mid-major, right? Otherwise, you're out of the CFP at that point anymore. But in basketball, and similar with baseball to some extent, you really just got to you got to position yourself so that you can get hot at the end of the year. And that's when everything's magnified more and people are watching more and paying attention more. So it seems like, like you said, Coach, you guys get healthy by the end of the year and you're already doing well. I mean, sky's the limit, it sounds like. So like you said, we put out this preseason prediction. I told everybody who's trying to give us a hard time, like you said, you kind of finish where you finish, but also like none of us submitted this. They just gave them to me, but none of us submitted this thing and didn't make any changes. Every single one of us had pen marks and pencil and eraser, and we're trying to like double and third guess what we've done and what order we've put people. It's just, that's kind of the fun of it at the same time too, right? So
it's analysis paralysis. It's just like, all right, they're playing a series. They've got Southern Miss, but it's at home. Can they get 2 out of 3? But then they got to go play Troy on the road. How's that one going to turn out? And what time? It's preseason crap is just that. It's crap.
Which way is the wind going to blow?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what's the weather like when you come to Boone in April? Like you never know.
Oh, we're coming first weekend at conference, man.
Yeah, I saw that. Seth will tell you that it's early April, I believe, when you guys come. You could have the most beautiful 75-degree day, or it could snow. You never know.
It snowed there on us in 19 on April Fool's Day. April 1st.
Don't doubt it one bit.
Yeah.
Great weather Friday, great weather Saturday, snow Sunday. And, of course, they made us play in it because why wouldn't they?
That's home field advantage.
Those Texas boys like doubleheader Saturday? Oh, no, Coach. No. We're going to get that Sunday game.
That noon game on Sunday when it's 34, blowing and snowing. Let's get it.
No doubt.
Yeah,
no doubt.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, this has been awesome, man. We really appreciate your time tonight. And thanks for, 40 minutes in, man. Like I said, it's almost natural at this point that we're getting up to that 40-minute mark with just about everybody. And really, really appreciate the interaction, man, because this is an introspective look on Texas State that we did not have before. Our knowledge base is now greater. We've got some names to look out for as this season continues on, and we look for great things to be coming out of the Texas State Bobcats program.
Awesome, guys. Man, I appreciate it. We got to get you guys down to Slam Marcus, man. So we got a great ballpark. We're about to do a big $11 million renovation. It's going to be pretty sweet. We got nice stuff now, and it's getting even nicer. So we're pretty fired up about the future of it and seeing where this thing goes.
That's awesome.
Without a shadow of a doubt, in my mind, probably the prettiest campus in all of the Sun Belt as well. I've seen pictures, and I'm like, man, I didn't know it until more recently, but just a place that looks like you just want to hang out all day, So lucky students down there in San Marcos, or Slam Marcos, I should say.
Slam Marcos.
We drove by on Saturday, I think, and there had to be like 500 out there hanging out by the river. It was crazy.
Yeah, definitely jealous of that. Maybe more in my my college days, I would have taken advantage. Now, leisurely stroll by. But, still, it looks like a phenomenal place. So, yeah, we'd love to get down there. That is a pretty good plane ride for us, but we'll see if we can swing it at some point.
Well, hopefully we win enough games at some point. We host a series that you guys can't miss. So that's what this is playing.
There you go.
And
we are trying to
Make
get
sure to see you when you come to Boone, Coach.
Yeah,
I'll find you. Yeah,
the rumor is that we're going to go to Montgomery for the conference tournament. So, maybe we can catch up with you guys there.
Come on.
Absolutely.
Well, good. You guys got my number, man. If y'all need get a hold of anyone over here or want someone else on, reach out. But, man, I appreciate it and wish you guys all the best.
All right.
Appreciate you, Coach.
Thanks, appreciate
Thanks,
you.
Doug. Appreciate
See you
it.
guys.
Take care.
Well, that was awesome, gentlemen.
In full transparency, I got a bit of an issue going forward. My notepad that I took all my notes on, just the electronic one, it's dead. So all my show notes are unaccessible at the moment. So I'll go off of memory as best as possible.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what we're here for, man. We're here to have fun with it. And so we're just going to continue on and have fun with it. Like I said, we're not going to be crazy introspective of every series, right? We don't want to do that. We aren't the experts when it comes to each individual team. We will get better as the year goes along. Here's our first example of not being experts, right? We grade ourselves very hard here. We may adjust this going forward, but take a look at the first series picks. I think not too shabby, even though we really, again, grading hard. Each one of us got one series correct. I don't know. Marv, any regrets? Did you think you should have changed something? I definitely have one big regret on mine.
I mean, hindsight's always 20/20. Like, why didn't you take a sweep for the number 9 team in the country? But I thought, Jamin, you could steal a game from them. Definitely thought that Marshall would get at least one. I went on a branch. I saw both of you guys went 1-3 in that series. Like, well, shit, I'll be a little bit different. I'll go for 2, but maybe the jet lag got him. I don't know. But no, those are my picks, and I'll stick to them.
Yeah,
Did Marshall played 4? I guess they did play 4, huh?
Did play 4.
They did play 4. Yep.
Didn't get one at all.
A couple of them were close.
Yeah, they had some close outcomes. The one reason I took them for one, Bryce Blevins, obviously our guest from Marshall last year. I thought maybe he can go in there and steal one. He had a pretty good performance, but unfortunately, they actually I think one of you guys was telling me how much they were up at one point late in the game by 2 or 3 runs, and then Hawaii had a big comeback there and flipped it around. And obviously playing at home, that's a big deal. But I do want to also put this out there, and maybe we can touch on it more once we get to that series real quick. But this would have been an upset no matter how you look at it. I know Marshall's a sunbelt team, and you look at a sunbelt team and think they should be a lot of people they match up against. Well, Marshall ended last season at 190 in the RPI, while Hawaii was 74, up there with the App States. And who else was over there? ODU was up in that area. So this was always kind of favoring Hawaii, especially with that long distance travel and playing at their venue at home. So my regret obviously is the JMU 2-1 score.
You imagine how pissed off the kids from Marshall are. You go spend 6 days in Hawaii, tropical, beautiful. You fly home. It's cold, about to snow, and you're like, take me back.
I know, right? Yeah,
Hey,
that's
better
every
losing.
single. Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
It's better than losing 2 in Hickory, North Carolina. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that was an ugly thing too. But
And not even close.
real quick, I always kind of forget to go back to the Instagram comments because they don't appear like all these other ones, unfortunately. But Paul, our resident Trojan fan, is saying, "Go Troy Trojans," and they had a heck of a weekend to start out with. But yeah, we'll see how these picks keep going. I know there was some confusion too, and I asked these guys before we put this out there, you think people will be confused that one team's over here, the other's over there, the number closer to the direction of the team is how we're picking? There was so many people that were like, "What is Marv thinking?" I was like, he didn't pick Western Carolina to sweep y'all. It's the opposite. You guys sweep them, whatever. We'll kind of coach some people along the way when we need to on that. All right. South Alabama. Gosh, I have too many South names to keep straight in my head right now. But South Alabama completes a winning weekend. I have kind of a little tagline for each team that we can kind of cover there. But obviously, pretty good weekend. 4-0. I mean, I guess the only thing you can look at is how good those wins are against those teams, right? I mean, you've got to maybe question how good those teams are going to be. But they had some good ones. I mean, 12-2, nothing to be too worried about in a score like that. A little bit closer on that rubber match that happened this afternoon. But we did have 3 games on Monday, by the way. So in the conference, there was 3 games that were played earlier today.
This was all in Mobile too, correct?
Yep.
Yes, all in Mobile at Stanky Field, where we are no longer welcome. But we'll see if we can get that changed.
Side-eye emoji.
Yeah. Artie Cat saying, didn't they just open a new ballpark? Marshall did. If that's, and I'm catching Artie's comment here maybe after the fact. But yeah, Marshall did open a new ballpark. Not sure about the other teams that we were talking about there, but
I think South Alabama did a little renovation, but I don't think it's new. But going back to South Alabama, a lot of teams that would like to be 4-0 right now.
Yeah, maybe this one right here. And there's our boy right there on that one. Yeah, so you're right. South Alabama got a new artificial turf field, so not
some club or some type of luxury seating area as well.
I think we debated that. I think we talked about this a little bit last year, especially with Arkansas State. What are we thinking? Like 15 games in the season when we really start to see who's a contender and who's a pretender? 15 to 20 first quarter to half of the season?
I think it's like 3 weekends into conference.
3 weekends?
Because, I mean, you got some teams like,
that's
Coach,
15 games right there.
I mean, Coach that was just on, I mean, if you look at their schedule, like who they're playing, like he mentioned, they got Oklahoma State, they're playing TCU, they're playing Grand Canyon, they're playing Campbell, playing some pretty tough out-of-conference schedules. And then you got some other teams that are playing a soft out-of-conference schedule. So I don't think, if you got a team that's stepping up and playing a whole bunch of SEC schools and playing some top 100 RPI schools out of conference, if they start off 500, 8-8 versus a team that played a whole bunch of 150 to 250 RPI schools and they're 11-4, you can't just look at the record and be like, oh, this team started off really well. So they haven't played anybody.
Right.
I get it.
Yeah, I think that's what we're going to see here, exactly what you just said, Marv. There's going to be some teams that have a really tough schedule to start off with and some ones that have a little bit weaker. And when you get into the conference play, people are going to say, well, this team's coming in 7-1 and the other one's coming in at 4.
But another question.
Yeah.
And I asked this, why schedule teams like that? And quote unquote, you get the same answer every time to prepare you for conference. I mean, that's the generic answer all the time, but in reality, is it yes to see where you stack up, but these are very big RPI games as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you almost have to schedule. I mean, looking at App, I think they've got Wake Forest and Duke. I mean, RPI builders, maybe Charleston, but looking at Texas State, go out there and play a competitive schedule, see who you are, see if you can pick off a few or, a couple and see how that goes for the rest of the year. But if you go into every game and you're getting 8-9 runs every single game, you're getting walloped. It's not necessarily doing you the greatest favor in the world.
No, not necessarily. We'll get back into this. I mean, I guess, is there really anything left to touch on this? I mean, an awesome trip, a great place to start off with, an unfortunate start as far as the record is concerned, but I think there were some promising things that we saw from Marshall. We'll see one at the end of the show to kind of keep a little secret, but a little nod to what we're going to get to there. Any last notes from you guys on this particular series?
No, they could have had 2. They had 2 really close games. Just tough start. I think that summarizes it. Yeah,
agreed. A hard fought one here. It doesn't look like that when you see the 0-3 start for ODU against Georgia Tech. But I think Marv, you were paying attention to a lot of these ones pretty closely. They had some late leads and stuff.
Yeah, I think every game was within a couple runs. Once again, my notes are dead, but it wasn't like they went and got outmatched and blown out by any stretch of the imagination. They were in pretty much every single ball game, had a chance to win at least one, if I remember correctly. But going to an ACC school, like Coach said, in Atlanta, everyone's recruiting kids out of Atlanta. Georgia Tech's getting some of those kids. Would you have liked to got one? Absolutely, but I wouldn't walk away from that series as an ODU fan, being 0-3. I'm like, oh, crap, we're not going to be good this season. It's like, hey, once we figure it out, we played a pretty good ACC team really hard. Once we get into conference, we're probably going to be okay.
Yeah, I'd agree there. I just pulled up the scores. That first game, 3-2 loss. And I believe they were up 2-0 or maybe even 3-0 kind of late into that one. At least the 5th or 6th inning. Maybe that's not too late for most people, but they had a chance, a really good one. I believe in that second game they lost that one 3-7, but I think they were up 3-0 for a couple of innings. Now, obviously, 7 runs that's going to take it there, and then they lost that last one 7-4. I think that one was probably the furthest disparity when it comes to actually gameplay on the field, because even the score there isn't too much different from that game previously. So a lot of promise from a team that's about to get a new ballpark next year. So, well, Marv, you remember off the top of your head, is that like $24 million ballpark or some craziness?
I think they had 25 million bucks. Yeah.
Whew. Dang. That's crazy. Artie's got a question for us here. Are you fans of term? You know what, Artie, let's save that. We've got a section of the show this year called Bonus Ball, and that's a great question. So remind me to come back to that if we don't, but I think I'll be able to remember getting that one. Some of the sweeps continue. Had a number of them this weekend with Southern Miss. Actually, a little bit of a struggle in game 2? Yeah, game 2. 7-6, 10-inning victory. Overcome Lafayette there. A little bit of a note here about why that was a little bit of a surprise. Southern Miss expected to be one of the best teams in this conference, as everyone knows. They were 27th in RPI to end the season last year. That's going to be hard to replicate, but some of their fans think it's possibly doable. Lafayette came in from last season, of course, as 244th.
Ooh.
So there's the disparity. There's why it's not a surprise to see them take this series 4-0. But yeah, that one in 10 innings, a little close. They had that 18-4 victory, 5-1, 9-2. So otherwise, probably not too much of a threat. But that one in the middle kind of there was probably pretty close matchup. I know there was some Southern Miss fans on Twitter sweating that one out. We wanted those bats to wake up so they could take that one, and they did so at the Pete at home. But
hey, and tomorrow night they have Mississippi State at the Pete. Looking forward to seeing that game.
Yeah, there's a lot of heat.
Early season, like pad your RPI kind of games.
Yeah, that's going to
be coverage of college baseball in general. Like, where do we watch these games? Are we watching the East?
ESPN Plus has so many college baseball games.
But they're still not. Have you heard of this Flow Sports?
I haven't.
Yeah, they charge you by either the game. I think you can get a monthly subscription. It's not great coverage. A lot of people don't like paying for it because they feel like they're not even up to the ESPN Plus standard, which, we've all seen can be good or it can be kind of crappy as well. It's kind of up to the teams and the students that are covering the game, because a lot of times I think it's kind of student-run camera work, at least from the looks of it sometimes. But yeah, I mean, I think Seth's right. I mean, we've got a number of them. Actually, both of you are right. Marv is right. There is a ton of college baseball on ESPN Plus. But to Seth's point, there's quite a few early season Sunbelt matchups that are nowhere to be found otherwise. A couple of them.
Do we know anything about the Southern Miss game
coming up
tomorrow night?
I would assume that one's going to be covered.
Yeah, I would definitely assume that one's going to be on ESPN Plus. I remember I got home Sunday afternoon after evals and clicked on ESPN app, and there was 52 college baseball games on, which I was like, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I mean, there is a lot. They will definitely give you, and we know this across the board, even though what we've just talked about with every single coach and every single one of us believes that the Sun Belt is one of the best baseball conferences in the country, it's still considered by most outlets and most people a mid-major conference. So we aren't getting quite the coverage as your ACC, your SEC, hell, even your Big Ten, which, again, that's the one that I'm harking on the most, is saying, like, you really going to say from top to bottom that they're better than the Sun Belt. But anyway, that's one that also probably just has more money. And so they have more cameras and more people that'll do games. I know I was just watching Rage and Review last night for the Louisiana fans out there. They did a great job covering the weekend, but they did so many other breakdowns of smaller things that are specific to the Cajun fan base. And one of them was, no coverage for at least one or two of their games. And they're going to kind of run into the same thing because softball and baseball are playing at the same time, and they kind of have to choose one because they really only have one crew to cover all this stuff.
Yeah.
In those regards, it makes sense, but it's still frustrating, right? Like, you pay for ESPN Plus, they tell you all your team's games are going to be on there. You hope to see them. And
I can confirm that the Mississippi State Southern Miss game is on ESPN tomorrow night at 7. ESPN Plus at 7:00. Mississippi State's ranked 18th.
Ooh, man,
Along with Troy and Auburn tomorrow night too.
Yeah, and Troy got bumped. They're 24 this week, and then you've just Georgia Tech, Georgia Southern on tomorrow night. Saw a bunch of sunbelt games. App High Point is on tomorrow. Cajuns and Texas Southern, JMU and Radford, and Arkansas State, who we're talking about now, and Ole Miss.
Arkansas State. Just kind of, Seth, were you keeping an eye on this one at all? This one was a little tough because the last game of this one was ending today. I think this was another one.
I checked out the first two games. Not very impressed with Arkansas State. I mean, they struggled a little bit. They opened up hot last year and ended up towards the bottom this year. I watched at least, I think, the Friday game of this one. Not real impressed so far.
I think a lot of people would probably come away with the same. I mean, again, I'll bring up the kind of RPI from last year as a reference point because we don't have enough this year to go off of. Arkansas State was behind Morehead State in RPI from last season, 218. Morehead State was 167. So neither program was all that impressive. So not surprising that Morehead State gets the win, but you kind of hope a new era starts with a home series win, right? And it did come down to that last game that they could have taken it. Unfortunately, did not go that way for the Red Wolves. But again, not terribly shocking like this one was. I don't know how much you can really say. Just the offense wasn't offensing.
Yeah, I had a double take every time I'd pull up and see the score. San Jose State, what were they, like 171 RPI last year?
170, almost perfect, Marv. Yeah, 170.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we had kind of heard from some Cajun fans that they thought that this might be a little bit of a down year for them, which a down year for them is a good year for a lot of schools. Right. This one really, really shocked me.
Yeah, absolutely. Shocked me too. I mean, started off fine, right? 7-2 victory Friday night. Nothing to worry about. 8-3 loss the next game. All right. Things happen early season. Get it out of the way. But then they lost the last game 12-4. Yeah. So, I mean, whatever you thought was just a minor fix that needed to happen seemed like it may be a little bit more than that. Early part of the season, plenty to turn this around. There's not really a cause for, an overreaction. But I do think it's a shocking loss in the regard, like you said, Marv, that Louisiana was 41st, in RPI to end last season. So to come in and lose to a team that was 170 after last year, again, these aren't the same teams year over year. I'm not saying that, but as an early season reference point, because we know so little, it's kind of something we can use to at least have an idea of what we expect to see. But yeah, that was the biggest shock to me. Now we'll go to Coastal Carolina. Is this the strongest start for any team in the conference thus far?
Without a doubt.
Seth,
I agree.
Yeah, I do too. Now, St. Joe's, let me see where my notes are for that. And in reference point, we know Coastal got in as the 7th place team. We've kind of talked about that the last couple days or weeks at this point. St. Joe's was 140th last year. Washington 160th. So St. Joe's is a better team than Washington, or at least from last season. K-State was 37th though. So that's the one that matters the most, the biggest matchup. And they just beat them 8-3 and 9-2.
Yeah.
So they didn't just win; they won decisively each game.
I watched a little bit. Man, they got some dudes on the mound. They're hard to hit, at least against these teams. Obviously, the bats work really well, but that's the best start in my opinion.
Here's another reason why it is. Add up every single run that was scored against them. They would not have lost any game.
Yeah.
If you added every single run from all their opponents. That's a great way to start off. Obviously at home is an advantage too, but yeah, I'm thinking Coastal's off to a very, very strong start. Easy to see why. I think there's a number of different rankings out there for baseball. Perfect Game, I believe, is the one that had them as a preseason ranked team. So easy to see now.
They're playing another tournament this weekend, and you'll find out very quickly how good they are, because I think they've got to play Alabama, Ohio State, and NC State. So I know we're going to get to the do you like the tournaments, but that's a good one for them to be in. That's a heck of an early season test.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Warhawks, they take the series 2-1. Put this up here on the full screen while I change like Superman over here to something that Coach Fed may have sent us to help us out. But yeah, the Warhawks get that early season series victory over Eastern Illinois, I guess, right? Isn't that what that logo is?
That's definitely Eastern Illinois.
Nice. Yeah, they looked pretty good. Zach Shaw there's the one pictured, one of the guys from ULM that we did have on the show. And it's time for me to take my triumphant return here. As we can see, we're Warhawked out now, baby. Look at that.
You know what? The hat goes really good with that shirt.
It does, man.
It does.
I like it. I had to bend the rim, bend the bill a little bit. I'm not necessarily a flat brim guy, like makes my head look tiny and small. But this is my first rope hat, so there we go. I'll keep this on for the rest of the remainder of the show. I'm now a fully fledged Warhawk fan. That's my West team. Send it to Coach Ed. Yeah, shout out to you guys. I'm gonna get you your stuff. I told the guys it felt like we were being recruited. I had a box at my house today with a letter and some merch and some gear. So we really appreciate that. Coach Fed and ULM Warhawks for taking care of us. And thanks to them for coming on the show. Going off to a pretty good start there. The only loss they had was that last game, 6-2. But otherwise, great performances. 11-7 in that first victory, and 8-1 in that second one. I think that's the game Shaw went. Was the second game where
I believe so.
You can't help but be happy for those guys, as passionate as they are about the program and about baseball. I mean, you can't help but, just to be blunt, they took time out of their night to come spend an hour with us, and it's hard not to pull for those guys. Genuinely good people. So best of luck to them all year and everybody else that we've had this year. And if you haven't responded, I hope you don't win a game.
Oh man.
Grambling State tomorrow at home at it says 2 p.m. I think Central Time, so 3 p.m. for us here on in the good time zone.
In the East Coast. See the backdrop shirt goes with the stuff, making it all match, man. I do like this color scheme. I will say, ever since I've seen the Warhawk stuff, I'm like, I would have never said like a maroon and gold or maroon and yellow, depending on how you look at it, kind of go together so naturally well, but it really works. And I love that uniform right there that Shaw's wearing, that pinstripe.
Yeah, looks good.
Fantastic. I mean, baseball pinstripes kind of go naturally anyway, but with the maroon and gold, it definitely pops. So good start for them on the year. Not so great start for our boys from Boone. Let's see. Where did Queens end up last year? They were 281st in RPI.
I thought they were doing school, and you guys corrected me on Friday.
And we do have to mention that as a possible aspect to this, right? Maybe they didn't really have the recruits still coming up. I know that they're not like freshly D2 to D1, but also, this could be one of those things. I don't know if that's the whole program or not. I believe it is, but there are some times where, a sport has been D1, even though one of the, like App's a perfect example, right? Everyone thought that the football team was D2. They weren't. They were 1AA, but everything else on App's campus was D1 the whole time. I don't know. Do you guys know that? I mean, Queens jump up D1, everything all at once, or was there like a?
Yeah. They went to, I believe last year they became Division I basketball and baseball, I believe.
Okay. I knew the basketball had jumped up because they actually should have qualified to go to the NCAA tournament, but couldn't take advantage of it because they were in their, the same thing JMU went through with the bowl games.
The transition year.
Yes. But I didn't know if baseball had been D1 for 5 years or something. You know what I mean? Like, I just didn't know.
That dude they threw on Friday night, he had an arm. I think
he's still throwing strikes.
Yeah, I mean, App struck out. What was it? 16 times was how many times they struck out in the first game. I think he's responsible for 10. I didn't get to watch any of the second games on the doubleheader on Sunday, but man, as an App fan, not the way we wanted to start. Sweep was what I was thinking going in. But hey, shout out Caleb Cross coming back off of injury. He looked really good on Friday as well.
Braxton Church had a big weekend too, right?
Yeah, he did.
Good one. So
the syndicate bump, fellas. The syndicate bump.
It's a real thing.
It
is a real thing. So yeah, App's got High Point tomorrow, and then University of Massachusetts Loyola this weekend. So
back in Hickory this weekend, right?
Yeah, back in Hickory. High Point simply got a pretty decent baseball team, so hopefully we can get back to 500 by the end of the weekend.
Yeah,
nice.
And I knew that there was a weather issue for Saturday, which would cause the doubleheader Sunday to not only be played away from Boone, which it was supposed to anyway, but even then it was supposed to be played in that minor league ballpark, got moved to a Division II baseball facility. So they actually played at Lenore Ryan College. Not that that's any kind of excuse because both teams had to move. So it's not, it is what it is. But, hopefully they can get back on track and heading in the right direction. We know Georgia State is known as the Bus Lot Boys. So this one is busted open as they take Belmont down quite easily. 3-0 in their series, 3 straight victories there for this one. Georgia State was 110 in RPI and Belmont 169. So not a matchup that necessarily was going to be a clean sweep from the outlet. They took advantage and took down Belmont.
I had some pretty cool stats written down for this one, and I can't. They're not accessible at the moment. So good job, Georgia State. Way to get off to once again, said it earlier about South Alabama. A lot of teams in the country like to be 3-0.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, that RPI is close enough there that there's absolutely a chance Belmont could have jumped up and won one of these games. So
when did they start tracking RPI for this season?
That's a good question. I don't know if there's a hard and true week they start or.
I want to say I Google searched it a couple of days ago and it said RPI will start after March 17th or something like that.
It's a day, okay.
I'm making up a day, but it was definitely one of the ones that I looked at. I was like, we'll start tracking this season after this date.
Interesting. I figured, if I'm looking at analytics, I want to use last year's data until it's proven completely wrong, right? Give me a starting point and I can adjust, but I don't want to not do stuff until I don't know, whatever. But that's how it's run. We don't.
I don't know. You got Texas State. Coach just on 27 out of 40 new players. Is that RPI from last year relevant at all?
True.
No.
True. No. That's one of those ones that wouldn't make any sense. You're right. So there's that.
I think the first week of midweeks will tell us a little bit too.
Yeah, I think so.
After tomorrow night, some big games.
Yeah, everything Texas State is saying. Texas State versus Oklahoma tomorrow from Globe Live. Yeah, we covered that earlier, but he's trying to find a live stream. Yeah, so I will definitely be doing that. I know that last year I got to watch their tournament, but that was a big time one that was MLB Network or something covered that one. So that was
wasn't that LSU, Texas, a bunch of teams in that tournament? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and they fared very well. That's why I thought at that point Texas State was going to fare very, very well in the Sun Belt overall. They didn't win them all, but they were just really competitive even when they didn't win. And I think they did get at least one big win. That was the one over Texas. That's right. Yep. So, whatever. Doesn't tell you everything you need to know, but it's an aspect that could help you. All right. Again, this was my pick of the week that was going to be some massive upset. I didn't think maybe that Florida State was going to be as good as number 9, right? Everyone talks about it. Your rankings are way off to start the year because you just don't know. Well, Florida State looked apart, fellas.
Yeah, they looked pretty good all weekend.
JMU scored 2 runs all weekend.
And I think there was some recent bias to this with JMU's regional, not just appearance. They showed up last year.
Yeah.
And then, the famous 1 of 4 from Arkansas last year would make you be led to believe that they would get at least 1 out of this. But the bats in Tallahassee were hot all weekend on this one. I watched a little bit of that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. When I watched, like you said, the bats for them were hot. The bats for JMU were not. But again, this is another team that was decimated by guys leaving for graduation or maybe transfer portal aspects. But yeah, that looks like the Dukes lost a lot. But again, I do probably lean towards the fact that Florida State's just a really good baseball program.
Right.
They are.
Right.
Yeah, and JMU's got Radford tomorrow night. So maybe get that first.
Now you lose to Radford, that starts telling us a little bit more.
Yeah, you lose
I don't
Radford, ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I don't think you take much from this now.
No,
I do take going 1-2 against a Queens team a lot more than going 0-3 against a Florida State team.
I would have liked to see JMU score more than 2 runs.
Yes, I think so. And again, it makes my prediction look a little silly, but I just thought they'd put up a little bit more of a fight. But again, this is a very young team, a totally different team compared to last season. I took a shot that, they'd be a surprise, and I was wrong, but that's all right. All right. Our boys down in Statesboro, man, they look pretty good. 3-0 sweep against Western Carolina, for those that don't know that logo or aren't familiar, the purple cats there. Marv, was there any notes that you specifically remember on this or anything you did want to note on this matchup specifically?
I want to say one of the pitchers from Georgia Southern struck out 10, but I could be wrong. There was a couple pitchers that struck out a bit, but if you look at the scores of the game, I mean, I think one game was close-ish. The other ones were pretty wide margin. I got to watch a little bit of Sundays and Friday's games, and Georgia Southern was good. They impressed my eyeballs at least. How's that?
Yeah. Okay. So here's the scores. I pulled them up: 10-2 Friday, 5-0 Saturday, and Sunday 11-5. So yeah, I mean, I'd say not necessarily tested. I don't know what we would have expected. I mean, Georgia Southern was 56 in RPI last year. Western came in at 108.
Yeah,
so pretty large disparity.
108's not terrible. Western's typically got a pretty solid program.
Western's relatively always at the top of the SoCon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, a test, but one that they should have won, one they did win. Most of us, even Seth, that we didn't grade you correctly, but you still called a series victory for Southern. So all of us in that regard knew what was likely to happen in this series there. So no big surprises, but again, Eagles take down the Cats in that one, relatively easy. And I've got this one for Troy ranked for a reason. And again, this one was done before the change in ranking. They're actually 24th.
How many did they score in that first game? I think they got 25 in the first game.
Yes. Let's see. Oh, that was one that I didn't write down because that was one of your notes, right?
Yeah. Once again, letting the team down.
It's fine. I just wasn't prepared for that one. I can pull that up here just a second. But yeah, they run ruled the first one. That's for sure because
I know they scored.
By the way, while I'm pulling this up, did you see that one score that was like 36-22 or something like that?
Yeah.
Who was that?
I don't know who that was.
There was over 40 hits in the game.
It was ridiculous.
Could you imagine being an umpire in that game, though?
Yeah. You're like, when is this over so I can go home? They beat Bellarmine 23-6 on Friday. Yeah. Called that one a little early.
Troy's arms look really good.
Yeah. I like but shout out to this helmet too, and it's really hard to see on this smaller thing. Maybe make it a little bit bigger and you can see it a little better. Maybe not. It's that like shiny Notre Dame look to the helmet. I like that look.
They've done that to their football helmets a couple times.
Yeah, that's true. I don't feel like I see it as much in baseball though. Maybe it's becoming more prevalent. I just don't see it as much. But I like that look on a baseball helmet. Stands out. They got that American flag within their logo there of the Troy script. So that was cool too. Yeah, not much to say here though, right? I mean, expected Bellarmine. Let's see this one here. Troy was 59th in RPI last year. Pretty good, right? Bellarmine 295 at the very bottom of NCAA football, really, because there's only 300 plus teams. So you're 295. Yeah, you should do exactly what you did. We can't grade any harsher or better because it's kind of what everyone thought going in we would see out of that kind of matchup. All right, this is something we're new. We are trying for this season, calling it best in class until or if we come up with something better, instead of necessarily bringing out an actual rankings each and every week, which we may switch to, depending on how people like this. We're calling it single A, double A, triple A, and the show. And kind of just grouping these teams within these parameters, I guess. I don't know.
I like it.
Is that a good enough description, guys?
That's awesome. I like it a lot.
We still got to do power rankings, but we can run with this.
Yeah. We might still do power rankings in a graphic form. We could do that for the show too. But I just thought we'd kind of mix it up here. I mean, I think the teams in single A either just didn't look very good, or you have to knock them, right? Like Marshall didn't look terrible or anything, but they lost 4 times in a row. Like,
No, I'd still put Marshall. They're competitive. No,
and that's the one thing that I want to say with this. This is just to kind of have fun with it, and you just got to have a way to group them. I'm not, because the team's in single A one week doesn't mean they can't jump all the way up to triple the next or even higher technically. If they get a 3 or 4 game sweep of a really good opponent, you're jumping really quick. So it's just kind of a way to group them starting out. Is it accurate? We don't know. We're trying our best to figure it out. We don't know exactly how good some of the opponents have been, right? But
so can you move them over, or do they just stay?
No. Yeah, these teams are going to move all throughout the season here.
No, I think
you drag them over.
Can you click on app and move the single
while we're live on the show right now?
Yeah.
No, I can't. I mean, I could, but I'd have to take it off the screen to do that. So
well, let's go through it real fast. Arkansas State, single A.
Single A.
Yeah,
single A.
Single A.
Marshall, double.
I'd say single A, but all right.
Yeah, I went single A. 4 chances to win. They didn't win. I gotta knock you for that. But I will agree. Talented team could turn it around and jump out of there. ODU is a harsh grade.
ODU double A, even though they're 0-3, they played Georgia Tech and played them pretty tight. So I would go double A on that.
That was one that
figured out.
Yeah, that was one that I thought. Again, a couple of those are a little harsh grade, but
triple A.
You go triple A for them?
I would.
Cajuns.
I'm
keeping them in double. I mean, they got that one victory. You probably could have even been really harsh and put them in single.
Yeah. I mean, if there was, if you would have done what we saw earlier with a low and a high, I'd put them in high single A.
Yeah, that's true. If there was an in between the single and double, yeah. Did you guys already do JMU? Was that the one you were talking about, or were we talking ODU?
Cajuns. I'd go JMU double A. I mean,
Marv. They didn't win a game. If you're going to stick Marshall in single A, you stick JMU in single A.
Yeah, but check it out. I mean, Marshall
and ODU did not play the number 9 team in the country. I'm about to
say, Marshall did not play the number 9 team in the country.
Yeah. So we're not all going to agree. I had to put this together without you guys.
South Alabama, triple A.
We all are going to be kissing some ass, I know.
No, I'm going triple A on this. We love you.
I'm going triple A, and the reason I don't go the show because we talked about it. They're 4-0 to start the year, but unlike
so was Arkansas State. Arkansas State went 12-0 last year, and look how they turned out.
Arkansas State 1-2
last year, bro.
Yeah, but everybody but they would be moved in last year's thing. That's what I'm saying. This can be moved. This is just right now as it stands. And 4-0 record, impressive. I like it. It's great. However, again, you got to look at RPI from last year, at least as a little bit of a standard. Eastern Kentucky, 260. Kent State, 165. SIUE, 252. So who did they beat to get those 4 victories? You just have to ask that. I still gave them credit. They're still in AAA for a 4-0 start. It's not easy to start 4-0 no matter who you're up against. But I'm tentative to go any higher than that because the opponent or opponents, I guess I should say.
All right, ULM.
Double.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Could have been double since we're wearing all their stuff. Triple. But yeah.
All right, Georgia State.
Double.
Triple. Yeah.
Triple could have been double if you grade harshly and say their opponent wasn't the greatest, but 169 in RPI from last season, not the greatest. So
anybody going to argue with Troy, Southern Miss, and Coastal all being in the show?
No, that's perfect.
Yeah, I think those are all pretty easy.
Damn, Georgia Southern poking its head up, getting close to being the top.
They're AAA, and they probably just got that 10-day call up.
Yeah.
And Texas State 3-0. I mean,
we could decide for sure on that one after tomorrow.
Yeah, Well, I mean, hell, if they win tomorrow, you put them in the show 4-0 with a win over a ranked team.
No.
What? I am.
No.
I would.
I am. But see, this is the fun. It's just week to week. So yes, I'm moving them up because as soon as they flounder, you get moved back down.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long season, fellas. Very long season. Exactly. But, if we're doing it week to week, I agree with you. Undefeated, do it.
Yeah. All right. But that'll pretty much wrap that segment up. But Ben has a Red Wolves game versus Ole Miss tomorrow has been moved up to 2 p.m. due to weather coming in. We're going to see a lot of this throughout the year, but that's a note that we thank you Ben. And then he said, and Seth, me and you both could have ended up in Charlotte with Monday Night Raw down there tonight. But I look at tickets occasionally. That stuff's just way too expensive. But Seth and I have gone to a wrestling thing, so we're not above it. We love us some wrestling. All right, fellas. Ace of the week, something we're going to try and do. This does not mean this is the best statistical player at the pitching position, but it's somebody who stood out maybe against a better opponent or just something a little bit more to focus on. We've got Coastal Carolina's Riley Eckhoff. I believe I'm saying that pronunciation correctly there. Pitched a complete game against Washington. 7 innings pitched, 1 run, 4 hits, 3 strikeouts. So phenomenal showing there against, Washington's not a great team, but complete game pitched, pretty good stats. Anything you guys want to mention? Did you guys catch that one specifically by chance?
Mm-mm.
No.
I didn't see Coastal hardly at all.
Pretty good stat line though.
Yeah. I'm going to watch a lot of them this weekend. That Coastal NC State game, just because of proximity to where we are, is going to be awesome on Sunday.
Is that in Raleigh this weekend?
No, they're playing in Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah, everything Texas State saying the show, banging on the table. Well, we've got you there. So for now, you are staying at the top of our little groupings, as we call them. All right, this next segment, I guess we're calling Barrel Up. This is Ethan Murdoch from Marshall, hammered the ball all weekend down there in Hawaii. Like you said, unfortunately, not a single win out of it. But check this out: 13 at bats, 3 runs, 6 hits, 3 home runs, 7 RBIs, 16 total bases. Heck of a week. They call him the Doc at Marshall, by the way.
Good nickname. Starts of the year.
What was that?
Good starts of the year. He's hitting 572.
Yeah, I think. You know what's funny though? I think he's somehow below that or something. But
6. Oh no, you're right. He's 450 something. I mean,
he's not. Again, he's not the best percentage wise as far as that's concerned. But some of these stat lines, I don't think anybody else in the conference has 16 total bases. 7 RBIs, I believe, is up there, if not the top.
Half
3 home runs.
Half the time he put the ball in play, it didn't come back into the park. So there you go.
There you go. Exactly. Just impressive. Again, you get the nickname the Doc for a reason. That's because you're a standout stud. So they've got a pitcher who stands out. They've got a guy hammering the ball, standing out as well.
Still not good enough for you two, so just forget them.
All right, now we get into the bonus ball portion of the show. If we're off topic, if we've got extra time, we went way over what I thought we would account for this evening. But this is the first week of trying some new segments out, so we'll go back to this. Artie is asking if we are a fan of tournaments to start the year off. Does anybody want to start us off with the answer on that?
No, not really, because they're not really tournaments. They're all round robins. You do see how you stack up against some other teams, but I wouldn't consider them a tournament. But like Coastal, I mean, you can knock out – it is good to knock out a few top-tier teams to begin the year. I mean, looking at RPI-wise, you load your – like Marv was talking about in Jacksonville, you load your weekend down. You can come out, that RPI ranking, granted it's not out yet, but that could really boost some numbers going into the middle of the year.
I personally love them. I agree with Seth. They're not true tournaments. But being able to play multiple teams, kind of what Seth said. I mean, you think about it, they're going to go play Ohio State, Alabama, and NC State. You win 2 out of those 3 games. That's an RPI boost. And every team has the ability to do that inside of that tournament. I think it's smart to get, teams together, do something like that. I enjoy it. Yeah,
I understand what Seth's saying, and I do agree with that to some point. You call it a tournament, but then it's not. There's no real – I mean, I guess maybe they're calling somebody a winner, and maybe there's a trophy on some of these things, but it's just kind of it's like a exhibition weekend. But as you said, this is greatly important to RPI, especially for when a team like Coastal gets to go down there and stockpile some really good opponents all in one trip, instead of having to go individually to all these different places to get those types of matchups. For Coastal, it's probably a little bit easier though, right? I mean, they have the pedigree and the brand to kind of get those matchups easier. we've seen that again. Texas State just had it last year, where they played a bunch of big schools as well. So yeah, I mean, I like it for that aspect. Possibly what helps is when you get those types of tournaments or games is that you're getting on maybe a national channel, right? Like ESPN's picking it up, MLB Network, somebody like that. So I like it for those aspects. I wish more of our teams would be able to get into those type of things. I mean, some of our more northern teams, Marshall, JMU, ODU, App State, are all going to struggle a little bit with the early season hosting aspects. But I wouldn't mind seeing some other teams host some of these types of things at their facilities, because I think the Sun Belt has some really, really good facilities that they could host a tournament or something like that with. So
think about this too, like Coastal strategically, they could easily see an Alabama or an NC State in a regional. Like now you've seen one of their guys, their arms, like it's I don't know. I think it's a smart play for teams to do that. Like, you think you got a chance, get a couple teams that are geographically close to you that you might see again, go ahead and play them. That way you don't have to fill them out when it matters the most.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me ask both of you this with just one question. Would you rather schedule the way, let's just be honest, Coastal schedule is probably the hardest in the conference.
Yeah.
Or would you rather schedule, just for instance, the way Arkansas State started off like 8-0, 10-0 last year?
Can I cop out and say there's a safe medium?
Yeah.
I'll even pop out harder and be like, if I could pick based on what my team is, right? Like, if I've got a really young team, I want a state schedule. If I've got an experienced older team that I feel very confident in, yeah, I want the tougher schedule because I know that they're ready, willing, and able to compete at that level.
Right.
So you don't get to choose that, but
if I was a coach and I had a team that I thought was going to be like a 50 RPI, right? Like someone that's going to battle for a spot in the regional, I would start with a Queens or someone super low, then, decent midweek. Then your next, look for a team like Western, 108, like a pretty respectable team, decent midweek. And then you go play a series against someone. You just kind of maybe staggered a little bit where your competition's building every weekend. And then
that's what App's done. That's exactly what App has done.
We'll see how that works out.
Couple Charlestons, couple High Points. You got your Dukes, you got your Wakes, but they're all irrelevant if you can't compete. So, yeah,
I mean, is UMass Loyola a step up from Queens?
probably not.
Yeah,
Maybe
they're going to
slightly.
turn around. They're going 4-0 this week.
There you go. I like the optimism. That's one thing we didn't even have any time for. Next week, we'll see. Again, those are going to be times where we don't have guests for everyone tuning in and still here. When that doesn't happen, we will obviously be able to spend more time on previewing the upcoming games. In the meantime, we'll kind of go this route because I think a lot of people have interest in having these guests on it, and we hope to have some players on this year as we go along as well. So, yeah, or we split it off and we do interviews separate from our regular show. We'll see kind of what we want to go for here, and if you guys that are tuning in and checking this show out have a specific request on what you want to see more or less of, more preview, less recap, or vice versa, let us know. We would like to try and tailor it to what people want to see and hear. So I guess that's kind of my ending here, fellas, unless you got anything else.
If you haven't listened to all the interviews, download, subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff. And send
if anybody out there listening is a fan of a school that we've not previewed and you have a way of getting somebody in contact that would like to be on the show, we're all ears here and we'd be glad to have them on. Yeah.
Sunbelt Syndicate, literally any social platform you can find, we probably have an account. You send us a message there, we will respond. So yeah, we are here. We're more than willing to give you guys the time and the platform.
It's great to hear from Artie too, man. I missed him.
I know. I meant to send him an email earlier today, but putting this all together, I didn't. And I'm super glad he tuned in because he's our Texas State guy. So we had to have him for tonight, and I'm glad we
Appreciate you, Dom. You're doing a great job, man. This takes a lot of work.
Yeah, appreciate you, brother.
Well, I'm glad to do it because I get to spend more time with you guys, and we get to learn about these guys in conference that we otherwise might not know as much about. So Yeah, keep signing in, keep tuning in, downloading, and we'll keep it going for all of you guys that are out there watching and listening, because we have fun with you guys and interacting with y'all as well. So until next week, we will see you guys later.
Sunbelt Syndicate.